down at the street below. There was no way she could jump, but she had no choice. Just as she prepared to climb over the railing, she felt a hand grab her wrist. "No!" she screamed, trying to pull away, but Robert was stronger. "I told you," he said, his grip tightening. "No one plays me." Lisa's vision blurred as panic took over. She had been so close to winning, but now she was about to lose everything. But then something unexpected happened. Robert's phone rang and he loosened his grip. For a second, it was all Lisa needed. She kicked him hard in the leg, causing him to stumble over. Without thinking, she jumped over the railing and landed on the fire escape below.
I see you, my heart beats, a lady of all men's dreams.
Lisa sat at the corner of the dimly lit bar, her long fingers tracing the rim of a wine glass. Her red dress clung to her figure, turning heads of every man who walked past. But Lisa wasn't interested in just any man. No, her eyes were on one specific target: Robert, a wealthy businessman known for his arrogance. From across the room, Robert glanced her way, just as she expected. His eyes lingered a second too long. Men were so predictable. Lisa smiled to herself. It always worked. They all fell for her beauty and charm, and they all left with empty wallets and broken hearts. She adjusted her hair and glanced at her reflection on her phone screen. Perfect! She took a slow sip of her drink, waiting for him to approach. But tonight, something felt off. Lisa couldn't place it. She was used to attention, but Robert's eyes seemed colder, more calculating. She brushed the feeling aside. She had played this game with countless men before, and tonight will not be different. As Robert walked towards her, Lisa quickly planned her next move. She would be mysterious but approachable, confident yet vulnerable. She dropped a hint about how she was in town and was looking for some good company. Men like Robert loved feeling needed. But as soon as Robert sat down beside her, Lisa felt a chill crawl up her spine.
"Can I get you another drink?"
Robert asked, his voice smooth, almost rehearsed. Lisa turned, her brightest smile on display. "Only if you are joining me," she said, tilting her head slightly, allowing her long coils to fall over her shoulder. Her eyes sparkled under the soft light. Men loved that. They always melted when she looked at them like that. But Robert didn't react the way she expected. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Linda blinked. Most of men were putty in her hands by now, but Robert, he seemed completely unaffected. So Robert began, his eyes narrowing slightly.
"What brings you to a place like this?"
Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but something about his tone made her pause. She wasn't sure why, but she felt like she was being tested. She couldn't slip up, not now. She gave a small laugh, pretending to be shy.
I was just passing through. Though I'll check out the nightlife, I didn't expect to meet someone like you."
Robert smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. He looked at her for a long time before speaking again. "You seem like someone who'd been through a lot, am I right?" Linda's heart skipped a beat. The way he said it, it was like he could see right through her. "I suppose we all have our stories," Lisa replied carefully. She needed to take control of the situation, but Robert's eyes never left hers.
"I know exactly what kind of woman you are,"
he said slowly. Lisa's stomach flipped. There was something in his voice, something dark and dangerous, but she couldn't let him see her nervousness. "And what kind of woman is that?" she asked, her smile tight. "The kind that gets what she wants," Robert said, her smile growing wider. "But let's see if you get what you want tonight." For the next few weeks, Robert and Lisa saw each other more frequently. Lisa pretended to fall for his charm while slowly planning how to access his money. She had done it before and knew exactly how to make him trust her. Robert, however, was different. He never seemed to give her too much information, and Lisa could never quite figure out how much he actually knew about her. She played along, keeping up her act. She pretended to be in love, but all she wanted was what he could give her. One night, they were having dinner at his penthouse. Lisa decided it was time to make her move. She had gained his trust and he seemed to believe every lie she told him. "Robert," Lisa said softly, reaching for his hand across the table. "I think I'm ready to take this to the next level. I want us to be together, really together." Robert raised an eyebrow. "Really?" he asked, his voice laced with amusement. "Is that what you really want?" Lisa nodded, trying to hide her excitement. This was it. She had him. But Robert stood up suddenly, walking over to the window. "Funny thing," he said, looking out at the city. "I've been thinking about this for a while too. I've been thinking about you." Lisa's heart pounded. What was happening? Robert turned to face her, his expression serious.
You know, Lisa, you are not the only one who's been playing a game.
Lisa's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Robert smiled, but this time it was sinister. "I know everything about you, Lisa. I know what you've done to other men, and I know exactly what you are planning to do to me." Lisa's hand shook. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. How did he know? "I am a lot like you," Robert continued. "I've played this game for years. I've conned people out of millions. And when I met you, I knew exactly who you were." Lisa felt her world closing in. She had been outplayed and she never even saw it coming. Lisa stood frozen, her mind racing. How had she missed the sign? Robert had been playing her the whole time. But why? "Why are you telling me this now?" Lisa asked, her voice shaky. Robert walked closer, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Because I want you to know that no one plays me. I let you think you were in control because it amused me, but now I am done playing." Lisa took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. "What are you going to do?" Robert's smile disappeared. "You tried to take something from me, Lisa. Now it's time for me to take something from you." Lisa's blood turned to ice. She didn't know what he meant, but she knew she was in danger. Suddenly, Robert pulled out his phone and pressed a button. A loud beep echoed through the room, and the door to the penthouse locked with a heavy click. "You are not leaving," Robert said, his voice cold and final. Lisa's mind raced. She had to get out. She had to escape. Desperation filled Lisa as she looked for a way out. She couldn't let him win, not like this. She spotted the balcony door and made a run for it. Robert didn't chase her. He simply stood there, watching her with a satisfied grin. "Run all you want, Lisa," he called after her, "but you won't get far." Lisa burst through the door and onto the balcony. The wind whipped her hair as she looked down at the street below. There was no way she could jump, but she had no choice. Just as she prepared to climb over the railing, she felt a hand grab her wrist. "No!" she screamed, trying to pull away, but Robert was stronger. "I told you," he said, his grip tightening. "No one plays me." Lisa's vision blurred as panic took over. She had been so close to winning, but now she was about to lose everything. But then something unexpected happened. Robert's phone rang and he loosened his grip. For a second, it was all Lisa needed. She kicked him hard in the leg, causing him to stumble over. Without thinking, she jumped over the railing and landed on the fire escape below. Robert cursed, rushing to the edge of the balcony, but by the time he looked down, Lisa was gone. Lisa ran through the city streets, her heart racing. She had escaped, but she knew it wasn't over. Robert wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. But Lisa wasn't going to let him win. She had one last trick up her sleeve. As she disappeared into the thin air, Lisa made a vow to herself. She would come back stronger. She would take Robert down, no matter what it took. And this time, she would be the one playing the game. After Lisa's escape, she knew Robert would come after her. But this time, she wouldn't be an easy target. She found a safe place in a city. An apartment far from the luxurious penthouse she had once dreamed of living. As days passed, Lisa reflected on her mistake. She had let her guard down, thinking Robert was just another man. But he wasn't. He was as dangerous and as cunning as she was, if not more. And now, she needed to outsmart him. Sitting at a small table in her new apartment, Lisa opened her laptop. She had been doing research on Robert, digging into his past, learning about his previous business dealing, and following the money thread. What she found both shocked and excited her. Robert had been involved in several high-profile cons, but he had always managed to cover his tracks, making it seem like he was the victim, not the perpetrator. But Lisa wasn't looking to expose him just yet. No, she had something up her sleeve, something much more personal. She was going to take him down from the inside. Lisa met her old friend Jake at a small mall. Jake looked older, with grey streaks in her hair and a few more wrinkles, but he still had that sharp, calculating look in his eyes. Lisa, he said, leaning back in his chair. It's been a long time. What brings you here? Lisa wasted no time getting to the point. I need your help. There is a man, a dangerous man, and I want to take him down. Jake raised an eyebrow. And what makes you think I'm still in the business? Lisa smiled. Because I know you, Jake. You may be playing it clean now, but deep down, you still love the game. Jane chuckled. You've got me there. So who is this person you want to take down? His name is Robert. He's a businessman, but also a con man. He tried to play me, and now I'm going to make him pay. Jake nodded slowly, taking it all in. All right, I'm in. But if we are going to take him down, we need to be smart about this. What's your plan? Lisa leaned forward, her voice low. I'm going to make him think he's won. I'm going to let him believe that he's in control. And when he least expects it, I will turn the tables on him. Jake smiled. Sound like old times. A week later, Lisa was ready to put her plan in motion. She had reconnected with Robert, acting like a woman who was defeated, broken, and willing to come back into his life. She played the part of the desperate ex-lover, apologizing for running away and begging him to take her back. Robert, ever the manipulator, welcomed her with open arms. He thought he had won, that Lisa was just another conquest. But Lisa had Jake working behind the scene. He was gathering evidence, bank record, emails, secret files, all proving Robert's involvement in illegal activities. Lisa fed Robert just enough information to keep him thinking he was in control, while Jake built the case against him. The night of their reunion, Lisa stood in Robert's luxurious penthouse once again. The atmosphere was tense, but she kept her cool, knowing that this was all part of the game. You know, Lisa, Robert said, pouring them both a glass of wine. I've missed you. I'm glad you came back. Lisa smiled, but inside her mind was racing. She had to time this perfectly. One wrong move and Robert will catch on to her plan. I missed you too, she replied, taking the glass of wine from his hand. They sat together, talking like old lovers, but underneath the surface, both were playing their own games. As the night went on, Robert began to let his guard down. He believed Lisa was under his spell again, just like before, but Lisa knew exactly when to make her move. I want to make things right between us, Lisa said softly, looking into Robert's eyes. I want us to start afresh. Robert smiled, leaning in closer. I think we can make things happen again. Lisa reached into her purse, pretending to look for her phone, but instead, she pressed a small button on a hidden recorder. Jake was listening in from the apartment next door, ready to make his move. Just as Robert leaned in for a kiss, Lisa pulled back. Before we do, I need to know something. Robert frowned. Oh, what's that now? Lisa's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. I need to know that you trust me completely. Robert laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. Of course, I trust you, Lisa. Lisa leaned in, her eyes locked on his. Then prove it. Tell me the truth about who you truly are. For a moment, Robert's face darkened. He seemed to sense that something was off, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. He believed he was invisible, that no one could ever touch him. You want the truth? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. Lisa nodded, her pulse weakening. Fine, Robert said, standing up and pacing the room. I'm not just a businessman. I've done things. Yes, things you wouldn't believe. I've taken down people more powerful than you could ever imagine. And now, I own everything. No one can stop me. Lisa's hand shook slightly as she held the recorder in her purse. She had him. But before she could react, Robert's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face turned pale. Lisa knew something was wrong. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. Robert looked at her, his eyes wide with panic. "We need to leave now." Lisa's stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the plan. Before Lisa could react, Robert grabbed her arm and pulled her towards the door. "We are not safe here," he muttered, his voice tight with fear. "What's going on?" Lisa asked, her mind racing. But Robert didn't answer. He dragged her down the stairs, through the building and into the dark street below. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be in control. As they reached the street, a black SUV pulled up beside them. Robert shoved her inside, slamming the door behind them. "What are you doing?" Lisa demanded, her voice shaking. Robert turned to her, his face pale. "They are coming for us. Someone betrayed me." Lisa's mind raced. Could it be Jake? Had he been found out? Before she could ask, the SUV sped away into the night. Inside the SUV, Robert paced back and forth, muttering to himself. Lisa sat in silence, trying to piece together what was happening. Finally, she spoke. "Who is after us?" Robert stopped pacing and looked at her, his face grim. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that we got out of here now." Lisa's stomach churned. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to take him down, not run away with him. But the SUV sped through the city. Lisa realized that she was in too deep. There was no turning back now. As they disappeared into the night, Lisa knew one thing for sure. The game wasn't over yet. As the SUV raced through the street, Lisa's mind was spinning. Who was after Robert? And why was he so afraid? She had planned to take him down, but now they were both on the run. "I need answers, Robert," Lisa demanded, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling up inside her. "Who is after us?" Robert ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting towards the window. "There are some people I've crossed, people you don't want to mess with." "People like who?" Lisa asked, her frustration growing. She needed control and fast. "They call themselves the Syndicate," Robert muttered. "I used to work with them, scamming rich clients, moving money offshore, laundering millions. But I got greedy. I thought I could outsmart them and keep the money all for myself." Lisa's heart sank. She had underestimated Robert's enemy. This wasn't just a scam gone wrong. This was life or death. "You've put us both in danger," Lisa snapped. "You'd have told me." "I didn't think they would find me," Robert said, his voice strained. "I thought I covered my tracks properly." Lisa clenched her fist. She had thought she was the one playing Robert, but now she realized that she had been pulled into a game far bigger and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Unbeknown to Lisa, Jake had been monitoring Robert's every move. After Lisa and Robert had disappeared, Jake used his connection to track their SUV. He knew Robert would run, but Jake wasn't ready to let Lisa fall into the hands of the Syndicate. Jake had gathered enough evidence to bring Robert down, but he also knew that syndicates wouldn't stop at just taking their money back. They wanted revenge, and they wanted it now. Armed with the files and audio recording, Jake contacted an old acquaintance with law enforcement. It was time to put an end to this. As Robert and Lisa sped through the city, Jake followed from a distance, waiting for the right moment to intervene. His plan was simple: get Lisa out and turn Robert over to the authorities before the syndicate could reach him. But the time was running out. The SUV pulled up to a remote warehouse on the outskirts of town. Robert stepped out, pulling Lisa with him. She glanced around, her heart pounding in her chest. The place was dark, eerie and abandoned, except for a few figures standing in the shadows. "They are here," Robert whispered, his face pale. Lisa's stomach churned. The syndicate had found them. A tall man emerged from the shadows, his expression cold and unforgiving. "You thought you could run, Robert," the man said, his voice low and menacing. "You owe us." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. She had to get out of there. But how? Robert stood frozen, his eyes wide with fear. "I can make it right," he stammered. "Just give me some time, please." The man shook his head. "Time is up." Before Robert could react, the man raised his hand and two of his men grabbed Robert, dragging him towards a black car parked nearby. "No," Robert shouted, struggling against their grip. "Please, I can fix this." But the syndicate wasn't interested in negotiations. Lisa watched in horror as they shoved Robert into the car. She knew she had to act fast if she wanted to escape the same fate. Just as the car door slammed shut, Jake burst into the warehouse, flanked by 2 officers. "Hands up!" one of the 2 officers yelled, his gun trained on the syndicate members. Chaos erupted. The man scattered, but the officers quickly apprehended them. Jake rushed down to Lisa, pulling her away from the scene. "Are you okay?" Jake asked, his voice filled with concern. Lisa nodded, but her mind was spinning. She had survived, but at what cost? Weeks passed, and Robert's trial became the talk of the city. The evidence Jake had gathered, combined with Lisa's testimony, sealed Robert's fate. He was sentenced to life in prison, but the syndicate remained a shadow force, always lurking in the background. Lisa moved on with her life, but the scars from the encounter with Robert never fully healed. She had come close to losing everything: her freedom, her safety, her life. But in the end, she had outplayed the man who thought he could control her. Jake, ever the loyal friend, stayed by her side, helping her rebuild and move forward. The game was over, but Lisa knew one thing for sure: she would never be the same again. And as she walked away from the courthouse, she smiled to herself. She had won. And in the end, Lisa learned a valuable lesson: it doesn't pay to play with people's emotions. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and share this story with your family and your friends who might love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.